the situation now in Jakarta? Is it better now?
It's better now. It's better. Although every day we have a demonstration, but it's just in front of the palace.
Okay, so there are more, only few people, less number of people.
Yes, less number of people, but I hope is everything's okay.
Yeah.
Because I know that this is Atma.
Good morning, esteemed speakers, guests, and fellow participants. Welcome to the International Webinar, Publication for Young Researchers, Myth, Reality, and Experience, held by Universiti Sains Malaysia and Atma Jaya Catholic University of Indonesia. I am Krista Angelica, and I am a business administration student at Atma Jaya, and I am your MC for today. Firstly, I would like to remind you of the rules for this webinar. Number 1, please use your real name for your Zoom name. Number 2, please turn off your notifications on your device. Number 3, please mute your microphone when you are not speaking. Secondly, I would like to thank you all for joining this webinar. I hope this can be an insightful and enjoyable experience for you. I hope you can learn more about becoming a researcher and ultimately publish your own researches one day. Lastly, to begin this webinar, I would like to invite Dr. Eko Widodo as the Dean of Faculty of Business Administration and Communication Studies to give his opening remarks. Sir, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Krista. Thank you for Professor Dr. Zulnaidi Yaakob from Universiti Sains Malaysia as a cooperation as a speaker and the cooperation with School of Business Administration at Atma Jaya Catholic University Indonesia in this international webinar in this morning is a good opportunity for us to learn about publication and etc. And also we are in international webinar now. The participant is come from 6 countries, from Bangladesh, from China, from the Philippines, is quite a big number, 41, Malaysia, and also from Pakistan. Welcome to the international webinar, publication for young researcher, myth, reality, and experience. Thank you for all of the participants in this international webinar, and I hope this international webinar can give us the new insight about the publication, about the research. Yeah. And for the last thing I said, according to one of the scholar, the Nobel laureate for the chemistry, Mr. Glenn P. Seaborg, that she said that the education of young people in science is at least as important, maybe more, so than the research itself. And I, based on this quote, I said that the education of young people in the science publication at least as important, maybe more so than publication itself. So the publication is very important in this era of the new era, in this new era. Thank you, Krista, for the opportunity, and welcome all of the participants from the 6 countries in this international webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Eko Widodo, for this remarks. Next, I invite Dr. Johannes Eko Adi Prasetyanto, SSI, as the Vice Rector of Research and Collaboration of Atma Jaya, to give his remarks. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Krista. Good morning, Pak Eko, the Dean of the faculty, and also Prof. Zulnaidi Yaakob, the speaker for this morning meeting. Thank you very much for your time to deliver the talk. So, and also I would like to welcome all the participants from the 6 country, and then according to the organizer, we are hosting more than 140 participants today, at least who registered for this webinar, and we know that publication is very important for us, especially for academician like us. myself, I'm a chemist, so I'm trained a chemist, and related to this to the publication, I have I think a story I would like to share. So 15 years ago, when I joined as a PhD student, as a young PhD student in South Korea, yeah, exactly 15 years ago, because I went to South Korea on August, and then on after 2 months, 3 months, my professor called me to his office, and then he told me that, okay, Eko, you have up to 6 or 7 years to graduate, so I can give you the scholarship for 6 or 7 years to do a PhD, but you can finish earlier. So what is the requirement? I want 10 international publication before you graduate. So before you get 10, you cannot graduate. This time we don't have this kind of seminar. We don't have tips and tricks. So what I had to do is work hard, work and work. So but now I think Dr. Zulnaidi Jacob will give you another story, that publication is enjoyable and then also useful for your future, and etc. etc. So please enjoy this morning webinar. I hope you all will learn a lot from Prof. Zulnaidi of how to publish, how to increase your curriculum vitae, how to path your future, especially with publication. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Krista.
Thank you, Dr. Johannes, for those remarks. Before we begin today's webinar, I would like to introduce you to today's speaker and moderator. Our speaker for today is Associate Professor Dr. Zulnaidi Jacob, AM, from Universiti Sains Malaysia. His degrees are Bachelor of Accounting with Honors, Master in Accounting, and a PhD in Management Accounting. Professor Zulnaidi has a stellar CV. He has been a visiting researcher in 3 universities in Australia, Indonesia, and China. He has achieved 9 service and academic awards. He has been published in 38 journals and has published 2 general academic books. He presented in almost 60 conference proceedings, received 10 research grants, and wrote 132 articles in scholarly magazines. He's been involved in numerous editorial boards, conferences, administration posts, and committees throughout his career. His many accomplishments are a testimonial to his advanced knowledge and experience in research, and we thank Professor Zulnaidi for his willingness to share his insights today. Next, our moderator for today is Rosdiana Sijabat, PhD, from Atma Jaya Catholic University of Indonesia. She received a bachelor's and a master's degree from Gajah Mada University, Yogyakarta, and a PhD degree from Flinders University, Australia. She is a senior lecturer at the School of Business Administration at Atma Jaya and also a vice dean at the faculty. With her expertise, she will be moderating our discussion and Q&A session for today. Without further ado, let's begin today's webinar. I invite Professor Zulnaidi to begin his presentation. Sir, the floor is yours.
Hello, hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah,
yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you to Krista and all the members of Unika Atma Jaya Jakarta for having me today in this session to share my experience as an author, as a reviewer, and also as a trainer for young researchers in publication. So today what I'm going to share with you is about the myth, the reality, and the experience my perceptions as an early researcher, as a young researcher, and also as a young researcher, just like Dr. Eko Adi, how he told you about his experience during his PhD, and also how the perceptions about publication later on become, you change the perceptions on the publication when you yourself has experience in publishing your research. So I hope what I'm going to share with you today is going to give you some inputs and some guidelines on how you can publish your research, especially for those who are very new in scientific publication, for those who are still in the learning process, for those who are S2 or S3, master or PhD level. Okay, so this is basically the contents of my presentation today. I would like to briefly share with you what is the benefits of publication. This is not a secret actually. Most of us know about the benefits of publication, but for young researcher, for students S2 and S3, you need to know this because it's going to be some sort of motivation and some sort of drive factor for you to publish your research, and why you need to produce a great research work during your master and PhD so that it can be a publishable research. It is important for you to plan ahead before you present proposal for your master and PhD. So later on, when you finish your master and your PhD, you do not only get your master and PhD, but you also establish yourself as a published author, as a researcher who have publication. After the second one, I would like to share about publishable research. What kind of research that have potential for publication, what you need to pay attention or what you need to look into your research process in order for you to produce a great research that later on can be published. And the third one, I would like to share about guidelines for young researcher, because I'm going to share with you perhaps a very basic guidelines that you need to do, and you need to make sure that you understand all these guidelines, because sometimes the basic mistake that you do during the publication process can later on have impact on your career development. So it's better for you as a young researcher, you start understand what should you do, what can be done, or what do and don'ts in publication. After guidelines for young researcher, I would like to share with you the publication process flow. As a reviewer, as a people who have experience in publication, I would like to share with you the perspective of a researcher and the perspective of a reviewer in the publication process flow, so that you have some understanding on how the reviewer actually review and analyze and evaluate your article. After that, I would like to share with you the process of article review and some conclusion for this presentation. If you have any question, definitely you can ask through chat room, and Krista will help you. Okay. So why we need to publish? Okay. As a student, as a S2 or S3 student, sometimes we publish because our supervisor asks us to publish. Sometimes we don't have option because the supervisor asks you to publish your research before you can graduate. So condition that put on you. But believe me, publication is beyond that. Publication is not just for you to meet the requirement, to meet the academic requirement for your degree, but it's beyond that. Publication is allow you to share your knowledge with a wider audience. For example, when you write your research, when you publish your research will be part of literature review, will be part of the garden of knowledge, where people can always go there, search your article and read your articles. Sometimes people stay using or refer to articles that published 10 or 20 years ago. It shows that the article is really meaningful and also contribute to the development of the knowledge. The second one is when you publish your research, you improve your research skill. When you attend graduate school, you learn about research methodology, you learn about how to conduct research, you learn about how to write proposal, you learn how to do research, you learn how to analyze the data, you learn how to answer the hypothesis, you learn how to conclude your research. But when you successfully finish your master or PhD, when you're able to present your research, your findings during a Viva session, it doesn't mean that you have the capability to publish. In other words, I would like to say you need different skill in publication and different skill in writing thesis for your degree. So when you're able to publish your research in journal publication, you improve your research skill because the process that you need to go through before your paper can get published is you receive comments, you receive reviewer feedback. So it helps you to improve your knowledge from time to time. So you need to consider publication as a learning process, as a lifelong learning process. If you intend to be an established researcher, continuous publication helps you to grab the latest knowledge, to equip you with the latest research methodology, and to make you aware about the latest software that can be used in analyzing your data. Okay. The third one, publication, when you publish your research in journal, we consider journal as a reference publication, where before you can publish your article in your journal, there are process where your article will be evaluated by managing editor, for example, chief editorial board, for example, and reviewer, to make sure that your article achieves certain standard of scientific publication. So through this process, you would be able to, justify the quality of your research, and also you will be able to establish your credential as well through publication in reference publication, in journal publication. And the last one is career and advancement. Nowadays, the job market, the academic job market is very competitive, and most of the university around the world today, looking for academician, looking for lecturer, looking for docent who are not only able to teach, but able to do research and publish. And when we are talking about researcher, it is almost difficult for you to claim that you are a good researcher until you have a list of significant publication. In other words, publication is very important to show your credibility, to show your capability, not only in becoming a great lecturer, but also in sharing your research and also contributing to the performance of your university. I really believe the same case happen in Indonesia now, where university not only asks you to teach students, not only asks you to be a great lecturer, but also the university now require you to be a good researcher with a great quality of publication. So when we're talking about publication, sometimes when we're talking about publication, there are issues between quantity and quality. The best researcher definitely who have a lot of quantity of publications, of number of journal published, as well as the quality. They are good in both quantity and quality. So to establish yourself as a researcher, don't just go for the quantity, where you publish yourself at any journals, which is later on doesn't have a significant impact on your career, which is later on doesn't have a significant impact on your CV or your resume. Also the quality. For new researcher, perhaps it's a learning process for you. You need to consider quality of publication as a continuous process for you to improve the quality of your publication. There are many ways in evaluating the quality of publication, and one of the ways people judging or people evaluating the quality of your publication is by looking at where or which journal do you publish your research. So for example, people evaluating the performance of a researcher by looking at how many numbers number of paper you publish in national journal, in international journal, publication in Scopus, publication in Web of Science, in Q1 or in Q2, citation numbers, and in that as well. So these are all the indicators. Normally, these are all the indicators people nowadays use to evaluate the quality of a researcher. However, for a new researcher, for a newcomer, you have to try publish your research in the best journal. Probably in the best journal that you think appropriate with your academic discipline. Discuss with your supervisor where to publish your research. Okay. Publication is not something that it's not something that you can plan within 1 week or 2 weeks. It is a long process, especially for those who are doing research in social sciences and also in business and management. When you need to, develop your proposal, doing data collection, doing data analysis, write your paper, and then submit for possible consideration by a particular journal. So how to plan a publishable research? You must pay attention from the beginning, from when you develop your research proposal. I think as a new researcher, you need to pay attention on this. You need to seek advice from your supervisor or from a senior researcher who can help you establish a research proposal. A good research proposal, because the quality of research proposal later on will have implications on the potential of that research to be published. Therefore, if you can write a research proposal and later on apply for the grant, if you receive a research grant from outside, from the third party, from any organization, it testifies the quality of your research proposal. And with that quality of research proposal, the potential for that research to be published perhaps higher. Okay. Second one, after you have a good research proposal, we have a good research objective, good problem statement, and also clear significant contribution of your research, you also need to master yourself with research methodology. You need to be able to understand the research methodology, not only in particular research, but also you need to understand, you need to be able to express the strength of the research methodology that you're going to use. For research student, for master and PhD student, normally you learn research methodology in class, you learn research methodology from your supervisor. But for those who are doing quantitative research, it is important for you to learn research methodology, in particular data analysis, by using the latest statistic application, which will help you in publication. The third one is scientific writing. When you write your research, it's very different from when you write a letter, or when you write a book, or when you write a popular article for popular magazine, for mass media magazine, for example. They use a different language style. They expect you to be able to convey your message scientifically. So how to develop this skill? There is no simple way for you to be a good writer, to be a good writer in scientific manuscript. You need to read a lot. That's why when you start your PhD or when you start your master, you will your supervisor will ask you read again and again, because by reading the articles, you know how to you can improve your writing skill, and later on when you write, you will be able to meet the criteria by a journal. And there is a common practice: before you submit an article to any particular journal, you need to at least browse through the content of the article, the content of the journal, read the language style in that journal. So it helps you to improve the quality of your writing. Okay, the last one is about publication process. There are different publication process between journal, between proceedings, between conferences, between when you do comparison between journals, books, magazines, newspapers, proceedings, there are differences in the way, in the process involved in publishing this type of publication. For example, for journal, they involve reviewer, they involve language checking, language editing before your paper can get published. Excuse me. Okay. These are the self-checks that you can do as a researcher before you submit your article to a particular journal. And these are common when a reviewer evaluates a manuscript. They are looking on these criteria, they are looking on these elements when a reviewer evaluates a manuscript. For example, the topic of research, or the topic that the topic under study must be something recent, something relevant, and must be something significant to the literature and also to the practitioner. But it depends. It depends to the type of research. Sometimes you do research, theoretical, very theoretical research, which is a contribution to, which is leading to theoretical contribution. The second one is significant issues. The issues that you study must be significant. The issue can be local issue. For example, the issue can be an issue in Indonesia, but then have a global interest. For example, when we're talking about COVID-19 now, maybe you're going to study about the impact of COVID-19 in Indonesia, which is very local issues. But then you intend to submit to international journal. So the question is it the topic is important, significant, or have a global interest? Due to COVID, is not an issue that's specific to Indonesia. yeah, the topic is relevant to the global audience. So when you do research, if you do research, they are very specific to the local issues, which is maybe not to the not you know not suitable for the global audience. Perhaps you have some challenge in publishing that kind of research. Okay, fill in the literature gap. Your research must be able to fill in the literature gap. So how do you address the literature gap? That's why you need to read a lot of article, previous research. When you read previous study, when you read previous article, when you have when you have a thorough literature review, then you will be able to identify what is the gap in the literature and then highlight the significance of your research. Because it is very important, because for most of the journal, they only publish something that has significant implication, that has significant contribution to the literature. And how to address that your article, your research has a significant contribution to the literature is by highlighting the gap in the literature that you try to fill in the gap. Okay, the second one, the another component that a reviewer evaluate your research is by looking at the research methodology. You cannot simply use any methodology that then weak methodology, because it's not going to help you to get your paper published in a journal. You need to have a reliable and valid research methodology. So methodology is very important component in your research. And your paper can be rejected or require major revision if you do not detail the process or detail the methodology that you use in your research. Okay. The third component is about writing skill. It's not more about research, it's not more about methodology, but it's about the way you present your research. Because when just like I mentioned to you before, the language style of journal publication is different from the language style you use for magazine, for newspapers, and also for the textbook. So you have to acquire skill how to write your research in scientific way. The writing style must be precise, must be clear, and if you are not sure about the quality of your writing, you probably need help from a professional editor to help you improve the quality of the writing. And also, when you write your article, you must be able to show your critical analysis. You should be able to critically analyze not only the previous finding, but also your findings. Okay. So these are guidelines that I would like to share to you as a young researcher on how to select journals, how the submission process, the review result, the final checking that you need to do, how to share your article, and how you consider all this process as a learning process to establish yourself from a young researcher to a more mature researcher later on in your academic life. Okay. So when you select a journal, there are many variables that you need to consider. I just give you an example of 3 variables that you need to consider, because when for example, you have done a research, and selecting a journal is a process that you should consider before you start your research. I mean, when you're developing a proposal, when you get research idea, before you start data collection, you should thinking about where to publish and which journal for you to target for publication, rather than you just thinking at the end of the process. Okay, it's okay when you complete your research later on, at the end of the process, you change your idea because you find a better journal, you find a more suitable journal. So the practice should be like that. Before you start doing your research, you have some sort of ideas. You have a list of targeted journals. So by having this list of targeted journal, you already put target in your research process that later on you're going to publish in this journal. But after you finish your research, later on you change the idea, you change the targeted journal, is okay. I just share the practice what you can consider in doing research. Okay, you can publish your research in index journal or non-index journal. Index journal can be Scopus, Web of Science, or National Index Journal, or non-index journal. The index journal in general represent a better quality of journal in general. Okay, so if you have a more publication in index journal, perhaps you have people where you have a better experience in publication, but it doesn't mean that publication in non-index journal is something that it's easy. Either you publish in index journal or you publish in non-index journal, the process would be the same. You need to go through the same process, but it's just about most of the international journals, quality grade journal are indexed in databases, and databases like Scopus and Web of Science. So if you have a great research, great manuscript, you should consider to submit your research to this high impact journal. Okay. The second one, you should look at the scope of the journal, because most of the journal, they have a very specific academic discipline, management, marketing, management information system, entrepreneurship. So you should read the scope of the journal first before you submit your article, because if you submit your article that beyond the scope of the journal, probably the journal would not be able to accept your article, the journal would not be able to accept your manuscript, even you have a good quality of manuscript. So scope of the journal is important factor for you to consider before you submit an article. And how do you get information about the scope of the journal is normally the scope of the journal, you can have the information through website, introduction and background of the journal. Okay. You also need to consider publication process and frequency of publication. Some journal they publish once a year, some journal they publish twice a year, some journal they publish thrice a year. So it depends to you. If the journal publish once a year, means you probably have a longer waiting time for your article to get published. And then if you need to get your article published faster, you need to find article, you need to find journal that have more frequent, they have a more frequency in terms of publication, perhaps 6 times per year or 4 times per year. Okay, so for those who are in, this is one of the web that you can use to find what is the journal that appropriate for your article. You go to journalfinder.elsevier.com, you just put your title, you put your abstract, you put your keywords. The website will provide you suggestions on which article for you to submit, which is improve the probability for your article to get accepted because you submit the journal to an appropriate journal. So please use this journalfinder.elsevier.com before you choose what is the best article, what is the best journal for you to submit. Okay. So before you submit, let's say you have finished your research, you have prepared your manuscript, now you are ready to submit. First, before you do submission, please read author's guideline. It is really important for you because different article has different guidelines. I have my own experience. Sometimes I submit an article without really go through all the guidelines. So after a few days, it get rejected by chief editor, not because of the quality of the manuscript, but because I did not follow the guideline. So I need to redo again, prepare everything accordingly to the guideline and resubmit. So after I resubmit, then the chief editor or managing editor will accept for further process for review. So make sure that you really follow the author's guideline, because every journal, they have their own author's guideline. So I cannot share with you today all the author's guideline because they are very different from each journal from one journal to another journal. The second one, write a cover letter to the managing editor that you would like to submit the manuscript, and the manuscript never submitted to other journal and is a original contribution, and you are the correspondent author for the article. Okay. The third one, you need to understand the process of submission, because nowadays most of the journal, they use online system for you to submit. So for those who are maybe the first timer who try to use the system, maybe it's a bit complicated for those who are not familiar, but I'm sure you can do that, because nowadays people are, you know, the system, the online system is not something, you know, it's not something new for many of us. Okay, but for some journal, they still accept submission through email. You can also submit your article through email, but please, if the journal only accepts submission through system, please do not try to submit your article through email. Perhaps you will never get any response from that email. So this is the very basic. It's about anatomy of an abstract. What should be in abstract when you write an abstract? Because the abstract is the first, perhaps the first section of your paper read by reviewer, managing editor of that journal. If they think the abstract is interesting, the abstract is okay, the abstract is acceptable, they will accept your paper for next process. So this is my article published in International Journal for Quality Research. I would like to share with you the content of the abstract. The content of the abstract for this article. First, we write the problem statement. Second, we write the research objective, the methodology, the findings, and the significance of study. So these 5 components must be in your abstract. So if you would not be able to write a good abstract or acceptable abstract, you know, it shows your first abstract is like a first sight when a reviewer or managing editor read your article. If the abstract is okay, if the abstract is, you know, achieve certain standard, they probably will proceed to the next level. But if you are not able to write a good abstract, probably they stop there and return back to you and ask you to improve the quality of your paper and resubmit for consideration. Every publisher, every publisher, they have their own format in writing an abstract. For example, if you submit your article to EBSCO, to Emerald, they have their own format. If you submit to other journal, normally most of the journal, they use a single paragraph format, a 1 paragraph format only for abstract. But there are also journal who do not use a single paragraph format, where you need to write a few sections for abstract, but they call abstract. For example, problem statement, research objective, methodology, findings, and significance of study. But for most journal, normally you write everything, you write all this into one particular paragraph. Okay. This is example of the criteria used by a reviewer to evaluate a manuscript. Okay. Okay. They evaluate the abstract first, just like I mentioned to you. So this is the first component when this is the first component evaluated by a reviewer. They read your abstract, they evaluate your abstract. Later on, after that, they evaluate the introduction, the literature, the quality of study, the argument, the adequacy of data analysis, legitimacy of conclusion, contributions to knowledge bodies, practical implication, and clarity of presentation. So you can use this as a guideline for you to write your article and make sure that you can do self-check actually, or you can co-evaluate this with your co-author, or you can ask your opinion. You can ask opinion of your supervisor to help you evaluate your article. So based on this evaluation, on the left, I share with you example of letter I received after review process. So there are some changes that I need to do. There are some revision I need to do on the manuscript before the manuscript can be accepted for publication. Revision process should be completed within a short period of time. For most of the journal, normally they give you about, I think it's about 3 to 4 weeks for you to revise, to do revisions on your manuscript and resubmit for further evaluation before it can be fully accepted for publication. Okay. So these are four categories how reviewer conclude the review process: accepted without correction, accepted with minor correction, resubmit, major correction, or rejected. Okay. For example, for this article, I received a letter from administrator of the journal for me to do correction because the decision by editorial is accept with minor correction. So I need to do minor correction. After I complete my final correction, I receive full acceptance of the article before the article can get published. But before the article get published, as an author, we need to do final checking. We need to check our name, author's name, affiliation, email, and proofread before we finalize the manuscript for publication. After you have your publication, the next step is you need to share your publication with your colleagues, with your network, with your friends from other countries as well. So how do you share your research? Actually, by you register your author ID in Scopus, in Web of Science, and Google Scholar. By having this information, when you have your researcher ID in Scopus, Web of Science, and Google Scholar, you can easily share list of your publication to your friends and to your network from other countries around the globe. So these are the tools that are important for you as a young researcher. Probably you can register your Scopus ID, ORCID ID, Web of Science, ResearchGate, as well as Google Scholar ID. Okay, so this is the publication process. Normally, after you submit your article, the journal office will receive the manuscript. The managing editor will screen the article. Is it suitable? Is it related to the journal scope? Is it suitable for publication? If everything okay, follow the format accordingly. If everything okay, the office will submit the manuscript. We send the manuscript to the reviewer to review that manuscript. So after completing the reviewing process, the reviewer passes the manuscript to the managing editor or chief editor to evaluate the conclusions by review. by reviewer. If okay, if not okay, accepted with minor correction, rejected, or accepted with major correction. Then the office will submit the article or will send the article to the author to do correction as suggested by reviewer. After the author finish the correction, they submit it again to the managing editor, and managing editor will, sometimes communicate with reviewer to confirm or to check if all the correction has been done correctly. Okay. So after everything is okay, then you will receive a letter that your article accepted for publication. But again, maybe you need to wait another month, you need to wait another 6 months, 1 year, 3 months before your paper available to the public and available on the Scopus or Web of Science. Okay. So this example of letter, when you submit your article to a journal, when you follow the format accordingly, they will accept your article, they will receive your article, and they will notify you that your article will be sent for review process. Okay, so after review process, they will send you a letter that your article has been accepted for the publication. Okay, so however, you need to prepare your article accordingly to the format of the journal. Okay, so when you do corrections on your journal, now your paper can be accepted for the publication. So these are example of letter that you receive from the journal to notify you that now your paper are now accepted and will be published. Okay. So as a reviewer, what are the criteria that actually looking the process of article review? What are the criteria what are the criteria used by the reviewer to evaluate your article? First, they're looking at the scope of your article. The scope of your article must be suitable, must be appropriate with the scope of the journal. For example, if you write an article or if you do study on marketing, then you should focus or you should submit your publication to marketing journal. The second one is quality of writing. How do you communicate your research with the audience? How do you communicate with your idea? How do you communicate your research with the public? So the quality of writing is very important. If you are not sure, if you are not sure that you have a good quality of writing or not, then you should better use professional editor to help you improve the quality of your writing. The third one is about quality of research, where it's not only about the way you write, the research itself must be achieve certain standard of quality in terms of background, theoretical foundation, problem statement, methodology that you use, and also discussion that you write in your article. And also the significance of issues. The article must address a significant issues that only not relevant to that particular journal, but also relevant to the reader. So these are all the components or all the criteria that used by a reviewer to evaluate the quality of a manuscript that's sent to a journal. Okay. You can go to this link to have a look about how a reviewer evaluate a particular journal. So I use the same guideline when I being asked to evaluate the article submitted to this journal on how to evaluate, how to review a manuscript. Okay. So there are many. There are few process involved in reviewing an article. Some journal they use double blind review process. Some journal they use a single blind review process. Double blind review process means, as a reviewer, I don't know you. You as an author don't know who review your article. So this can guarantee the professionalism and also the objectivity in the review process. In terms of providing report to an author, some journal use open format, some journal use structured format, some journal use combination of this. I have shared with you example of structured format where a reviewer evaluate the abstract, the introduction, the methodology, the writing, the data analysis, the conclusion. An open structure where a researcher provide extra comments on the article, what need to be improved. Normally, basically, if the quality of that article is very low, then sometimes structured format is not enough for a reviewer to provide feedbacks or comments to the article. Okay. And the last one, reviewer need to make a conclusion. After they give you evaluation, they give you feedback about the quality of your research, the quality of your article, that they need to conclude. The reviewer, he or she need to conclude either accepted, rejected, accepted with minor correction, or accepted with major correction. Okay, so this is an example of format used by reviewer to review or to evaluate an article. Originality, they evaluate from they evaluate the introduction, literature review, methodology, result discussion, and also bibliography and originality, and also which is the most important part is recommendation by reviewer. Is it accept or require corrections or reject because of certain reason? And also there are sections where a reviewer can write extra comments if they think if they feel that there are a few comments, few improvement needed by the author beyond the criteria mentioned in the table. Okay. Once you receive a reviewer report, it's now for you to reply, or it's now for you to provide response to the report. So how to provide response? You can use this table, for example, by listing the number of report, section, reviewer comments, response. This is important. How do you respond to reviewer comments? Sometimes you have to admit, you just follow the reviewer comments and do correction on your manuscript. Sometimes you have your own argument. You also can reply in that way, as long as you believe in your research and you believe in the methodology that you use. It doesn't mean that every reviewer comments must be, sometimes reviewer just give opinions. Sometimes reviewer just give a suggestion for you, so you need to respond. Not all reviewer comment is about correction or correcting your manuscript. Sometimes reviewer asking for more information. Sometimes reviewer asking you to do further reading and to provide more justification. Okay. So that's all what the content of my presentation today. So I am more than happy to receive any questions or feedback from the audience. Maybe we can have further discussion on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Zulnaidi, for that wonderful presentation. Next, it is time for the discussion and Q&A session. I invite our moderator, Mrs. Rosdiana Sijabat, PhD, to begin this session. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you, Professor Zul. Krista, can you hear my voice clearly
Yes,
before I continue?
yes, you're audible.
All right, thank you. Professor Zul, thank you for sharing with us. You have shared substantial information on the publications. And we are going to go further in that part. But now, before we continue with the discussion session and also answering questions, I will ask two colleagues, young scholars from two different countries. The first one is Dr. Farah Nawas from the Rajasi University Bangladesh, and our second fellow is Dr. Paulo. Dr. Faraha, can you take times and probably share with us your experience in conducting publication? I know that you have published in numerous international journals, and also you write book chapters, books, and so on. Now, it is good for us to hear from your perspective. Yes, please. You can record the session, Dr. Farha. And while you are preparing, I will present your information background. So Dr. Farah Nawas is now the associate professor at the Department of Public Administration in the Faculty of Social Science, University of Rajasi in Bangladesh. She is also international fellow at Watson Institute of International and Public Affairs at Brown University, the USA. She also visiting research scholar at University of Oxford in the UK, and she is my mate, my friend during our PhD study at Flinders University, Australia. Dr. Faraha has published books, book chapters, articles in various peer-reviewed academic journals. She also received numerous international honors, awards, and also grants. Dr. Faraha, could you please share your experience, what to do, what not to do when we as young scholars starting to do publication? Time is yours, Dr. Faraha. Can you unmute your device, please? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, it is unmuted already. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it is now good, all clear.
Okay, thank you so much, Rosiana, my ex-PhD colleague, for your invitation. And I'm truly grateful to you to be invited by this international webinar. And as you know, today we are discussing about publication opportunities for young scholar. And thank you so much to the speaker from Malaysia for your mesmerizing presentation. Today, let me begin my presentation with a bit of a background. Like those who are working in academia, we work basically for three basic reasons. One is basically we work for three basic reasons. One is acquisition of knowledge. Acquisition of knowledge because we need to acquire knowledges. Then the second thing is after acquiring knowledge, we go for creation of knowledge. And then the third thing is dissemination of knowledge. After creating the knowledge, you have to disseminate it. You have to share your research finding, your knowledge to others. So these are the basic three objectives of us. Now, apart from this, why we need to publish? Why it's important to publish book chapter, book, or journal article in peer-reviewed journal? Now, to me, there are some reasons, but the first reason is advancement of theory. The second one, generating new knowledge. The third one is extension of literature. So these are the three basic reasons to me that why we publish. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we know, what are the problems or challenges we face when we try to publish, because like me, many of I think that all publishers face the same kind of problem. And for young researchers, it is even more difficult because of the lack of experience. They have to juggle with too many things at the same time. So it is difficult for them. Now, what I would suggest from my experience, that before submitting your work to a journal, you need to find out that which journal would fit best for your research work. So you can go for two-way. For example, you write a research paper first, then you find out that which journals are best for your research work, then you find out a journal. And then another way might be the top-down way, like you dream for a journal that, for example, World Development. You might have a dream of publishing an article in World Development. Then you select that what are the things that World Development are looking for. Then you prepare your research paper according to their requirement. But this is not the common. Normally, we go for prepare a paper first, and then we find out that which journal would best fit for your research work. And because most cases, the editor will tell you that when you're being rejected, they will tell you that this is out of your this is not the scope of our journal. So you have to read very carefully that whether your research article is fitting to the is meeting the requirements of the journal. Then the second important thing is you have to go for submission guidelines. Very important that you need to go for submission guidelines, that what are the things you have to follow, because each journal has different submission guidelines. And worldwide, there are top class journals, for example, Elsevier, Springer Nature, along with Palgrave Macmillan, then Wiley, and number 4 is Taylor and Francis. These four publishes 40% of the journal. So they are very top ranking journal, and other 60% are published by other publishers. Then, so each journal has different submission guidelines. So before you submit a paper, you have to go for the guidelines. And for example, they may tell you to prepare a title page first. And in title page, you have to write your name, your affiliation, so on and so forth. Then you have to go for an abstract. And I would suggest you to follow some of the things that are very important when you organize an abstract. Because to me, abstract should reflect your whole paper, because the editor will first see your title, then will go for abstract first. So I think the 50% decision will make that whether it will go for review process or not after reading your abstract. So abstract should be in a very simple language. It has to be very clear. It has to tell the reader about the whole story, what you are going to discuss in your full paper. Then what are the things you have to include in abstract? You should include basic research question. Then you should tell the reader that why your research is significant. Number 3 is just a methodology in 2-3 sentences. And then you go for findings. And at last, you wrap up with the contribution of your paper. So this is how you could organize your abstract. And then you have to read the guidelines. Some journals require introduction. Some journals tell you to write a background. So you have to prepare your paper according to the guideline. And then you have to, they want you to include some keywords, because when the reader will find you, they will search with your keywords. So this is very important to choose the right keyword for your journal article. Then some journals would tell you to write about the declaration. You have to declare whether you have written any part of the paper in anywhere. You have to declare this. Is there any conflict of interest? You have to tell this. Is there any funding opportunities, funding issues are involved here? And you have to go for acknowledgement for some journals. So these are very different. So first you have to look at the articles author section, the article submission guidelines, and you prepare your paper according to the guideline. Then you go for submission. And as our speaker said, that once you submit a journal article, it will go to the editor. Editor will decide, or editor will see your title first. And regarding title, it has to be very catchy. It shows some kind of uniqueness. Okay. So it's very important to give a good title of your paper. Then beautifully prepare your abstract. This is the main thing you have to do. Then the editor will read your abstract and the full one, and he will decide that whether it will go for peer review or not. Then your paper will go for blind peer review process, and it will come back to you. You don't know how long it will take. It is a very time-consuming process for some journals, because reviewers, since it has no recognition and it's a blind peer review, reviewers are not getting interested to review articles. So sometimes it takes a long time to get feedback. And then it will come back again to the editor. Editor will see that whether it requires major revision or minor revision or something else. Then if he or she thinks that it will go to send it to the author again, he or she will send it to author again for further revision. Then it will sometimes it go to the peer reviewer again, and sometimes the editor give the final decision. So this is how the journal articles publishers, and I know like me, I think everybody, we all have same kind of experience. Like I basically have a love-hate relationship with the publication process. Some publications, maybe in quality journals, for some publication I didn't face much challenges. It was very easy go, but for some other publication, I had to struggle a lot. So I would say that I have a love-hate relationship with the publication process. But at the end of the day, I would say that there is no shortcut way to publish in a good quality journal. So you must have to keep patience for a good publication. And if you want me to tell a little bit about book publication, it's almost same, but for book publication, you have to prepare a book proposal first. And again, you have to read the guidelines of particular publisher, that it would require to prepare the book proposal. And in book proposal, one extra thing you have to do, that you have to justify why your book is significant, what is the contribution of your book, and who is going to be the reader of your book. So who will read your book? You have to tell it. And then most important thing, because book will never be published if it doesn't have any market value. So who are the competitors in the market, possible competitors, and why your book is unique, why it's not other competitors' books are unique. So you have to justify and answer all these things before you prepare a book proposal. Then you submit a book proposal, and then it will go for the same kind of thing. And regarding book chapter, because I think I'm running out of time, I have 10 minutes, but regarding book chapter, I would suggest not to go for book chapter much, because you would have less citation for book chapter. So it's always wise to publish articles, journal research articles in good peer-reviewed journals. I think that's all from me, Rosiana. Thank you very much. I think I have finished in 10 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Farah. So we are really glad that you share your experience. I think we will come back to you when we start the question and answer, if you still have some time to stay with us.
Okay.
Now we will love to hear from other colleagues from a different country. So we have Dr. Paulo. He is from the Philippines. I will share my screen. Dr. Jean Paulo, his educational qualification is Bachelor of Arts major in Economics from the University of the Philippines. He holds Master in Business Administration from Angeles University Foundations, the Philippines, and doctoral degree in Business Management from Philippine Women's University. His current position is the Vice President for Research and Extensions of the City of College of Angeles, Angeles City, Philippines. And his area of expertise includes organization behavior, entrepreneurship education, tourism marketing. Dr. Paulo has published in various peer-reviewed papers in reputed international journals and conferences. Dr. Paulo, time is yours. Please share with us your publication experience.
Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Diana, for inviting me in your event. So I am very glad that you considered me as one of maybe sharer of information about research publication. So I am very glad that I was invited by Atma Jaya Catholic University of Indonesia for this wonderful event. And I think most of the speakers have already shared the basics of research publication, particularly if we are really targeting for reputable journals. I think one of the biggest challenges that is being faced by young scholars is basically publishing the research papers in reputable journals, let's say Index in Scopus, or let's say in Web of Science, particularly if you are targeting for Q1, Q2, and so on and so forth. Okay, the other speakers have shared all their experiences and the typical requirements that that is being needed if we want to publish our research papers in these reputable journals. I think what I want to share with you is basically the things that you need to remember aside from the technical aspect of writing research papers and publishing your research papers. But we always need to go back with the reason why we are taking our graduate studies, whether we are taking a master's degree or a doctorate degree. I think most of us, one of our reasons why we are taking a master's degree or a doctorate degree is basically it is a requirement for us, particularly if we are working in the academe, right? So most of us are required to finish a master's degree or a doctorate degree simply because our university require us to finish these degrees because this is part of our job, this is part of our work. Okay, but then again, we need to remember that in the academe, we should not be only be confined in being excellent in instruction or teaching our students, but we need to be also excellent in research because research is basically a huge part of indicator in terms of quality of education. If we will be looking at the different ranking organizations, research is being given much emphasis as part of measure of quality education. Aside from the fact that Dr. Faraha and our speaker, Dr. Zulnaidi, have shared about the ways on how we can publish our research papers, I think young scholars need to realize several things. One, it is okay for you not to understand everything. Okay, because I think sometimes we are disheartened because our, let's say, our supervisor or our advisor will tell us that you need to change this one, you need to revise this one. Every now and then they are always asking you to revise your paper, and that is okay because that is part of the learning process. Okay, I think the things that we need to remember, that once we are in our doctorate degree, for example, or taking our doctorate degree, we need to have an open ear to listen for criticisms for our research works. Okay, because it is when we open our ears for criticisms, it is much easier for us to understand things. Okay, because we really need let's face the fact that once we are in our doctorate degree program, or once we are on the level of being a novice researcher, we don't know everything. Okay, and it is okay to be faced by several criticisms from these experts. Okay, number two, I think we always as young scholars, I advise you to always seek for new knowledge. Okay, always think yourself as somebody who's not superior to others, but always consider yourself as a work in progress. Because if we will always consider ourselves as a person who is a work in progress, then it is much easier for us to open our minds to new knowledge, to new learning. Okay, number three, I think one of the things that we need to remember, particularly if you are a novice researcher, or you are, for example, doing your doctorate dissertation or your thesis now, you always need to read a lot of research articles published in these reputed journals. Okay, because sometimes not all the things that are being taught in our universities are really that will contribute a lot. But I think what matters most is we need to learn the tricks of the game in research publication. Different journals, they have different requirements. Different reviewers always have different ways of commenting on our papers. So we need to learn the tricks of the game, particularly in publishing our research papers in reputable journals. Next, we need to always update ourselves with latest developments in research, okay, in methodologies, and always challenge yourself to publish your research paper. Okay, every now and then the landscape of research is changing. There are new methodologies that are being undertaken now. There are new ways on how to analyze data. So we really need to learn all these latest developments, because most journals now are in most cases are not only looking for novelty of topics, but they are also looking for quality of data analysis that we did through our research methods. So we need to be updated with these different research developments. Next, we really need to learn from real experts, somebody who is really published the research papers in reputable journals. Look for great mentors. Okay, these are the people who can really help you with your research journey. Okay, then you need to expand your research network. Okay, for example, if you are taking your doctorate degree in Indonesia, you don't need to confine your learning in Indonesia. You need to seek also new learning from other countries, maybe in Malaysia, maybe in Australia, maybe in other parts of the world, because it is through having a wider research network that we learn more and be able to find colleagues that can really help us with our research journey. And lastly, I think we really need to find our niche in the academe, particularly for young instructors or young personnel in the academe. If you are, for example, an assistant professor right now or an instructor right now, I think you really need to find your niche in the academe. It is not enough that we are good in teaching. We really need to be also good in research. Okay, so one of the things that we need to remember, that every time we publish our research paper, this is also an opportunity for us, okay, to share what we have learned. And at the same time, this is also an opportunity for us to also disseminate, okay, all the things that we have learned in the academe. Okay, of course, whether we like it or not, research will always be part of our role, okay, in the academe. And I think the last thing that I want to share with everyone, whether you are a novice researcher or not, you really need to love research, because it is only by loving research that you can produce research. Okay, because I think most of us, we always attend several research webinars, trainings, and other events in research. But sometimes we are always confronted with the question, did I learn something out of it? I think the first thing that we need to learn is to really learn to love research. And it follows after when you love already the world of research, then it will follow other things like writing good research papers and publishing your research papers in reputable journals. So I hope I was able to share something to everyone. As young scholars, always be optimistic, because at the end of the day, research should always be part of our learning process, and at the same time, it should always be part of our everyday life. So all you need to do is really love research, and I am so sure we can all publish our research papers in reputable journals. Again, good morning and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paolo. Your sharing also has enriched our knowledge about the publication. Now we will start with the questions and answer sessions. I already have some questions. The first one from Hayati Nupus. Miss Hayati, time is yours. Please unmute your device and deliver your questions to the speakers. Yes, please.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Nice to see you. Yeah, I'm Unica student, and I would like to ask about the a myth and a reality associated with human development research, yeah, and theorizing, and how the author challenge in the field, and to fully insight the reader about how the approach human development research. How to approach human development research about this title, myth and reality, yeah, associated with human development research and theorizing. Okay, thank you.
Dr. Zul, Dr. Faraha and Dr. Paulo, do you get the question? Dr. Zul, do you get the questions from Ibu Hayati?
Hi, Bu Rosdiana. Maybe you can help me.
Ibu Hayati, can you repeat your questions, please?
Yeah. I would like to ask about this title, myth and reality associated with human development research and theorizing, right? And how the author challenge in the field and to fully insight the reader about the approach human development research only.
So how to tell the
author challenge in the field in this myth and reality.
Okay, so the challenge that author probably meet or face during the publication.
Yes. Yes.
Do you mean the challenge during the publications?
Yes.
That usually most authors face.
Yeah. How to approach and
how to deal with the challenge.
Yes.
Okay. So Dr. Zul, Dr. Faraha and Dr. Paulo, Miss Hayati asked us to you, so how do we cope with the challenge when meeting the challenge during the publication process? How do we deal with the challenge? I think that is the message from Ibu Hayati's questions. Please feel free, probably Dr. Zul, you can start, and then if Dr. Faraha have some comments and also follow Dr. Paulo.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Busrodiana. Maybe I can share my opinion about this, how to cope with the challenge in publication, especially for young researchers. My advice is you need to you need to have a good preparation, well prepared before you submit your article for publication. In other words, you cannot simply do any research and write any manuscript or any paper then submit for consideration. You need to do pre-process before you submit your article. Reading the scope of the journal, browse the article published in that journal, so that you will develop some expectation about what kind of research, what kind of article that's suitable for that particular journal. This is important for you as a young researcher, because if you submit a low, I would say a low quality manuscript, or a manuscript that not well prepared, then you get rejected. Perhaps it's going to have negative impact in terms to your emotion, where you feel that you are, you know, it's going to have negative impact. Maybe you feel not confident for you to publish. So it is really critical. It's really important for you, for young researcher, to get second opinions, perhaps to get feedbacks from your supervisor, perhaps to learn from your senior researcher, perhaps, so that the first article, the first manuscript, the manuscript that you submit to the journal is really something that you are satisfied. So you are you just not, you know, you just not try to submit and up to the chief editor to decide, or you just try and error. In other words, you just try to submit anything and you hope that you get a positive result from your action or from your submission. So my advice to you is make sure that you have a proper basic background knowledge about the manuscript and about the process of submission and about the journal. And also please get some advice from established researcher or your senior or your lecturer who have experience in publication. Thank you.
Rosiana, can I say something?
Yes, please, Dr. Faraha, please.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. Actually, now we all have to deal with challenges. Okay, whenever we go for anything, challenges must. We have to face it. Now, as I said before, I'm repeating that before submitting a paper, please go to the journal guideline, author submission guideline first. Read it very carefully. And second most important thing, that you prepare your title as perfectly as you can. It has to be very catchy, clear, and short, so that it should be understandable. Okay, and then when you prepare the abstract, I'm emphasizing on the abstract, like it should tell the whole story. Okay, that you begin with the research question, then you talk about the significance of your research, then you go for a methodology in 1-2 sentences, then you have to write the findings, and then you wrap up your abstract with the contribution of your paper. So this is what you have to follow before you go for any submission. And then when you prepare a paper, you should be very careful that what are the contribution that I'm going to make. Okay, and it has to be very, you should clearly mention that this is what I'm doing. As I said, it should be either go for the advancement of theory, or it should generate some new knowledge, or it should go for the extension of literature. So it has to be in some way, it should have some contribution. And if it is being still, after following all these things, if you're being rejected, because there's high possibility of being rejected for a young researcher, if you really target quality journal, as I said Elsevier, Springer, and Palgrave Macmillan, Wiley, and Taylor and Francis, And it's very, very, you have a possibility of being rejected, but you should be patient. You should continuously work on it, and sooner or later you will be succeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Faraha. Dr. Paulo, can we have your thought about this? So because sometimes, and it is very common happen that we got a rejection email. So this is like when you like a girl and then you being rejected, Dr. Paulo. So how to cope with that feeling, please?
Yeah, I agree. For young researchers, we always face different challenges, particularly with regards to our research publication. One thing that I want to tell everyone, aside from, again, the technical things that Dr. Zul have shared and also Dr. Farah have shared about the content of your research paper, one thing that you need to learn, or one thing that you need to remember, it is okay to be rejected. Okay, because that is part of the learning process. I tell you, even I myself, I experienced rejection with my research publication. And of course, our emotions are really affected with it because we really work hard for that paper. Then this journal will simply reject our research paper. And my suggestion is accept the fact that it is okay to be rejected in terms of research publication. Okay, that is part of the normal process. Do not think that it is a failure on your part, but take it as a learning experience, because you will be able to hear what are the reasons why they rejected your paper. And always go back with your motivation. Go back with your goal. What is your goal? Your goal is to really publish a research paper. Go back with that kind of motivation, maybe improve your paper and submit your research paper to other journal. Remember, this is very normal. Even I think for experienced researchers, they also experience rejection. Always remember that in the research publication, it is okay to be rejected, because it is in every time that we experience rejection that we learn more about research. So I think that is what I want to share to everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Paulo, for your feedback. Now we still have some question, Miss Deborah. Miss Deborah, would you please unmute your device and deliver your questions to the speakers? So I will. Okay, Miss Deborah. Okay, I will read questions from Miss Deborah. She asks, so what is the best way to start when doing a research? Do we have to start from simple topic and then go to more advanced and complicated topic? And in your experience, so what is the best way to do or to select a methodology that appropriate with our research? We can probably start the answer from Dr. Paulo. So what is the best way to start from simple to more complex one? And how do we select the best methodology?
Okay, so I think I think the thing that we always need to remember is what is our goal with our research. Okay, sometimes we always think of the complexity of our research, because most research journals are looking for big topics, novel topics, something that will require for complex research methodology. Always go back with your core. Always think of what is your goal. It is okay to publish a research paper, a simple research paper, if you think that paper is really worth sharing. Okay, again, there are different available journals that can publish your research work. But then again, you always need to go back with what is your goal. If, for example, your goal is to really publish with reputable journals, let's say Q1 journals or Q2 journals, expect that you need to have a bigger topic, something that can really contribute, something that is novel, something that you identified a good research methodology, something that is really complex. Okay, so if that would be your target, then you need to come up with research topic or research paper that really that will be fitted with that kind of journal. But for example, if you are only looking for paper for research publication, because you are just simply starting your research publication journey, then you can write a research paper, a simple research paper that has simple research methodology. It always go back with what is your goal as a researcher. For experienced researcher, most probably they are really doing great research papers with great research methodology. So always go back with that. Always have what we call research target. What is your research target? If it's Q1 or Q2, then you really need to have an excellent paper. Okay, but if you are, for example, a novice researcher starting your journey in research publication, then a simple paper is okay.
Thank you, Dr. Paulo. Dr. Farah, can you have something to share from your side? Probably when you start your first publication, was it a complex one or simple one?
Okay, thank you very much. It's an interesting question. Actually, it doesn't matter whether you start with a simple or complex. Again, it is your research. I would say it's not about simple or complex. It has to be contemporary or topical. Now, if you do a research on COVID-19 these days, most of the journals would be interested to know about it because it's a current issue. It's a topical one. So go for this, go for the topical or contemporary issues. And again, regarding methodology, it's a very important question. I would say that some journals like quantitative analyzing or quantitative representation of data. Some journals prefer qualitative analysis. So it is again up to the journal. You have to go to the guidelines and you have to read some papers. That what is their requirement? What type of articles are they publishing? So before you take any decision, you have to look very carefully that whether these journals prefer quantitative analysis or qualitative analysis. Then you prepare your abstract accordingly. That's what I would suggest. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Farah. Dr. Zul, can we have your opinion, please?
Okay, thank you, Bu Rosdiana. My opinion as a reviewer, when I review a manuscript submitted by an author, first, I would like to, when I review an article, I try to be finding the positive side first, the significance of the article. It doesn't matter either the article is presenting big ideas or small ideas, as long as the article can contribute some knowledge to the literature or to the practical. Contribution can be very huge, can be very small. It doesn't matter as long as we can learn something from the article. So perhaps the topic is not recent, it's not new, but the way the author present, the methodology they use, the sampling they use is perhaps something can contribute to the literature. Okay, but if the author writes something on very recent topics, for example, the article submitting a research on COVID-19, of course, I have interest to read further about the content of the article. So you must be balanced between these two. You can submit something very recent, but for novel researcher, for young researchers, perhaps it's difficult for you to convince a reviewer that you have that capability to write a very recent topic with very limited literature review. Okay, but if you try to replicate previous study that already established, for example, the model is really established and the theory is really established, it's more convincing for you as a young researcher to do a research or to come out with a good research, as long as you able to highlight the significance and how your research has contributed to fill in the gap in the literature. So you have to balance between this, but I do believe as a research student, when you do your master, when you present proposal for your master, or when you do PhD and you present your proposal for your PhD, I do believe they are significant in your study. That's why you can proceed with that proposal. So again, either you would like to start small or you would like to start big. First, again, read the author's guideline, read the journal guidelines, because some journal they really encourage young researchers or research from PhD dissertation for publication. So again, there is no simple answer for this question. It's a learning process. You can try submit your research article, and then later you see the feedback from the chief editor. I have my own experience. For example, I submit an article, a simple article to a journal. It's about 10 years ago, and it get published. Because at that time the journal is still, progressing, it's still new. They are looking for manuscript, but later on this year, when I would like to submit article, I receive an email from the chief editor telling me that now they have a lot of manuscript to be processed. They asked me, they advised me to submit to other journals. So there are example of experiences that you will get as an author. Sometimes when you submit your topic, your manuscript, the editor-in-chief, the chief editor really like the topic, and perhaps you have more probability for your paper to get published. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zul. We still have sometimes we have question from Miss Devina from Universitas Tarumanegara University, a private university in Jakarta. Miss Devina, please raise your question. Please unmute your device first. Miss Devina.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to ask, when we feel stuck while doing our research and feel like we can't move on with it, what is the right step to take? Are there any tips from experience? Thank you.
All right, so this is about move on again. So probably we love to hear first from Dr. Paulo. How to move on, Dr. Paulo?
Okay, another interesting question. Of course, we have different ways on how to cope every time we feel that we are stuck with our research writing. Of course, it is very normal for us to have a moment wherein we feel that we do not have any motivation at all to write our research paper. I think everyone experiences that. As for myself, every time I experience that I do not have any motivation, I usually go out with myself and go to a place that can really refresh my mind. I do not know if it will work for you. I usually give my time to rest and think over of what is my goal again. Because I think it is very normal to experience that. If every time you stuck with your research writing, it is as if you do not have any motivation to push through with your paper. Always go back again with what is your goal. Do not forget your goal. Again, it is normal to feel those all negative emotions. I think having a doctorate degree, for example, is I think one of the most challenging one of the most challenging parts or aspects of our life. And again, we are quite we sometimes be bombarded with all these criticisms from our supervisors, from our advisors, from our mentors. And because of those negative comments, sometimes we feel we are disheartened. But I think we always go back again with your goal. Find a time, find an activity that you find very interesting or something that you really love to do. Then maybe pause for a moment, then go back again with research writing. I think that's the only thing that I can suggest. I do not know if there is a pill or a medicine for that, but I feel that all that the only thing that you can do is basically pause for a while, take a deep breath, do something that you really love aside from research writing. Then once your mind is already okay, then go back again with your task, which is writing your research paper.
Thank you, Dr. Paulo. Dr. Farah, I would love to hear from you. One time I got rejection letter from an editor, and then I gave up, and then I do something else really different, cooking. How about you, Dr. Farah?
To me, sometimes it works really well. Like when I sit in, I write very, very, very well, but sometimes I got stuck and I find no word to write. It's very common for everybody. But I think when you start, it's better not to work with it, just leave it and do whatever you like. You go outside, you take a break. Okay, you go for coffee with your friends. So you need a break. Then after refreshing your mind, you sit again. This works for me. And then I will, sometimes sometimes it really works really well, sometimes it doesn't. So I have no straightforward answer for this. Thank you.
Yeah, it is very true. There is no straightforward strategy that suitable for everyone. Now, Dr. Zulna, can you add some comments on that point, please?
Okay, thank you. I do agree with Dr. Paulo and Dr. Farah. It's a common problem. It's a common challenges, not only for young researchers and for even established and even for the professors as well. So my simple advice, take rest, do whatever you like, and when you are ready to come back to your manuscript. That's all.
Thank you, Dr. Zul. We still have 2 minutes left, and now we will give a bonus time to our MC, Krista, because she has one good question. Time's yours, Krista.
Hello, so I have a question for Professor Zulnaidi. From your personal experience, what kind of challenge, what was the most difficult challenge that you had to face, and how did you overcome that challenge? Thank you.
Please, Dr. Zul.
Okay, thank you. There are a lot of challenges actually, but my advice to young researchers: start early. Start early because gain as many experience as possible. Because later on, when you start working, and or after you finish your PhD, after you finish your postdoctoral, perhaps there are more works for you waiting in your office, that you need to be involved in administration. You need to to do many other things than research. So my advice to young researcher like Krista, if you are really interested, if you are really, would like to establish yourself as a researcher, start early, because the earlier you invest your time, the earlier you invest your energy, the earlier you invest your commitment, the earlier you will get the benefit and result and reward from your commitment and from your sacrifice. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Zul. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. This is very interesting session and topics that we have talked during 2 hours. So if I could sum up from Dr. Zulnaidi, Dr. Farah, Dr. Paulo, that we as young researchers really need to identify, observe the right needs according to our publications. So the first thing that I noted from the discussion is, the first one, we really need to pay attention to the rules that apply in the publication. So give attention to the rules, to the guidelines. That is the most important step in the beginning. Then the second one, as all the speaker mentioned before, there is no shortcut. So this is not easy one, but this is not actually hard one. But we have to understand that there is no shortcut to get to being published in very excellent journals. And the third one, that we have to be open for criticisms. As Dr. Paulo noted, that we have to be open. We are open for criticisms because it is publications is about learning process. So that is a really good point. And also Dr. Zul noted also for us that when we start, when we get bad feeling about having rejections from auditors, we have to seek advice, help, probably for our seniors and probably also from our mentors. And also the last thing also important from Dr. Farah, there is no straightforward strategy that apply to all persons, to all scholars, but we have to identify when we get the bad feeling, when we try to move on to cope that bad feeling because of the having rejections, we have to find what is the a way out that appropriate and that applicable to our situation and also conditions. So that is my sum up points during the discussion and question and answers. Once again, thank you, Dr. Zulnaidi, for sharing your knowledge with us this morning. Dr. Farah, my friends, thank you a lot. Thank you very much. Good day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Dr. Paulo from the Philippines, I really thank you for sharing your knowledge, taking time to be with us this morning. Thank you very much. And also to all the participants. Krista, now I transfer back the time to you. Thank you, Krista.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Zulnaidi, Mrs. Rosdiana, Dr. Farah, Dr. Paulo, and also our participants for that vibrant and lively discussion. To close today's webinar, I invite Dr. Vincentius Rahmadi Parmono, as the head of Business Administration Bachelor's Program, to give his closing remarks. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the time, Krista. Distinguished guests, Professor Zulnaidi Yaakob, Dr. Farah Nawaz, Dr. Yang Paulo Lacap, friends and ladies and gentlemen, good morning or good evening. School of Business Administration, Atma Jaya Catholic University of Indonesia is honored to have hosted this webinar in partnership with Universiti Sains Malaysia. The best of the best in the webinar is coming. I see many young people join and very enthusiastic to this event. Indeed, by this webinar, we need to mentor and nurture our next generation of researchers. I'm happy that participants not only come from Indonesia, but also come from other countries. They join, listen to the discussion, and the most important, they participate in and they participate to the discussion too. I'm happy that participants not only come from Indonesia. It underscores that this webinar is internationally recognized. Our presence here only means one thing, our commitment to nurture publication culture, publish or perish. This is our common goal, the very reason for this webinar. Before I end, I want to thank you to all the people that made this webinar possible to be, and especially to unsung heroes behind the screens. Again, I hope this webinar will be beneficial to us, and thank you for your participation and terima kasih.
Thank you, Dr. Vincentius Rahmadi, for this remark. This brings our international webinar today to a close. Before we end this webinar, we will have a quick photo session. Everyone, please turn on your cameras. Mr. Sanso will handle the photo session. Mr. Sanso, the floor is yours.
Okay, let me handle the photo session. Please turn on all of your camera. There will be 3 photos. Maybe you can smile in 1 until 2 minutes. Okay, let's wait. And the slide 2, please turn on your camera, please. It's only for the documentations. Okay, I will start from slide 1. Please smile, 1, 2, and 3. Wait. I will go to slide 2. 1, 2, and 3. Smile. And for the last slide, please smile. Thank you. And 1, 2, and 3. And that's all, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Sanso.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Krista.
Thank you
Thank
semua.
you,
Thank you, everyone.
all the participants.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fazul, Dr. Farah, Dr. Paulo.
Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. Have a
Thank you.
splendid rest of your day.
You may now leave the Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you.